Hello there. I'm here. Don't worry. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300 or 740 KVOR or either of those two stations' outstanding free to download, free to use apps sponsored by Diversus Health. Mental health and well-being for all. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program. I have one guest. He is Corey Roldan from KKTV 11. He will join me more than an hour from now, so plenty of time for you and I to have a discussion in the meantime. If you want to call or text into the show, the handy thing is the number's the same, no matter what way you like to communicate. 719-247-1313 is that number you could text or call. Now then, I think I can say without equivocation that this has been unequivocally the worst week of the season for the Colorado Avalanche. Absolute nightmare fuel stuff for the Colorado Avalanche. Back-to-back losses in regulation, no less, after they lost 4-2 last night in Tampa. It took this team 58 days of this season to suffer 2 regulation losses. 58 days. 27 games it took them to lose 2 in regulation. Now they've lost that many in 3 days. What is going on with the Colorado Avalanche right now can, I think, best be described with a reference to a film by the name of Inception. Perhaps you've seen this. It's basically the hockey version of when Saito realizes that he's dreaming and the dream collapses and everything starts getting crushed and collapsing in on itself and it's getting turned upside down and it's flooding everywhere. It's a disaster. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is running around trying to wake everybody up for fear that they'll be stuck in that collapsed dream. That's what's going on right now with the Colorado Avalanche. Okay, maybe it's not quite that bad. But it's the closest thing they've had to adversity in 2 months. And if you're an Avs fan, you may not know how to deal with it. And you may be looking at these last 2 games as exactly that scene from the movie Inception. Because you've lived a charmed life. You've known nothing but success. You've been watching a team that has been off to a historic start that cannot be beaten seemingly within an hour, within 60 minutes of a game clock. The only way that the Avs have been beaten really is if they lose in overtime or the shootout, which really isn't even real hockey. So I would forgive you if maybe over the last 3 days, and especially last night, you felt like the Avalanche are collapsing. Because what it's been is so opposite end of the spectrum that it's very difficult to deal with the setbacks that they have had over the last few days. No Gabriel Landeskog, no Devon Taves, no Mackenzie Blackwood, but head coach Jared Bednar says none of that should matter.
You still have to prepare yourself the same way and go out and carry out your business the same way for the guys that are in the lineup. And, you know, I thought, again, we played hard, we competed hard. Yeah, we made a couple mistakes, but we also did a bunch of good things as well. And you come up a little bit short and you got to regroup and get ready to do the same thing again. And our team's been doing that. And then that's the first and foremost what I judge our team on. And we feel like if we kind of stick to that process, then we'll get the results we want in the long run.
And look, Jared Bednar is 100% right. He is. They didn't have Mackenzie Blackwood for the first month of the season. They didn't have Valeri Nichushkin for a 17-game stretch. In fact, that stretch you could argue was worse because the Avs at one point did not win a hockey game in 4 tries. It's just that 3 of those games were either an overtime or shootout loss, which didn't bother people as much. But the point is that the Avalanche, this is not the first time that the injury bug has bit the Colorado Avalanche. They've had guys in and out of the lineup throughout this season. And yet they plug along and are off to or following a historic pace in terms of the amount of points that they can accumulate this season, even still with these 2 losses in regulation over the last 3 days. This team right now is in the middle of the middle of the road. I believe they're 13th in the NHL in man games lost. So they haven't been the most snake bit team with injuries, but they're hardly escaped the early parts of this season unscathed. Right? They're right in the middle. But what makes this particular bout, I think, with the injury bug a little bit more difficult is that simultaneously you have 3 consequential players all hurt at the same time. In Landeskog, Taves, and Blackwood. And watching the Tampa Bay game last night, the guy that they miss the most is Devon Taves. Because with the Tampa Bay Lightning and how good they are, and the Avs did not lose to the worst team in the NHL last night, far from it. Tampa was just able to pin the Avalanche back in their own defensive end, guarding their own goal for way too long. 1 minute and 30 seconds, 1:45, 2 minutes, which in hockey parlance is an eternity to be out there defending on the ice. In Tampa, because of their skill and how good of a team they are, against a slightly undermanned Avs team, at home, they could do a little bit of that. But the guy that is you look to in those situations when a shift is going on for too long and you need a stop, you need the puck to get out of your own end, they usually call upon Devon Taves. So I think you watch last night, the guy that they're missing, and it's not to say that they're not missing Gabriel Landeskog, but to me, the guy they were missing the most last night is Devon Taves. That losing him stung a little bit. And I mentioned how good Tampa is. That's also part of this here. They're playing a really good hockey team on the road. Their 3rd game in 4 nights. There are logical, acceptable reasons why the Colorado Avalanche suffered their 2nd loss in as many games in regulation. Things that even when it's not 3 games and 4 nights make sense. Tampa's a really good team. Avs are in the middle of a road trip, playing a really good hockey team. This happens. But look, there's a space that exists. And there's a space that exists between being an unstoppable juggernaut and the greatest team to ever lace up skates and the best team in the NHL right now. Like, there's space there. There's wiggle room. Okay, maybe it's been perceived that the Avalanche are more towards the unbeatable juggernaut best team to ever lace them up. And now they might be starting to occupy a little bit more of the space near not unstoppable juggernaut, best team to ever lace them up. but still comfortably the best team in this league today, which I think that they still are. And we're seeing this in the NBA right now too. There are parallels with the way that people were talking about Oklahoma City. Just like 3 weeks ago, 96 Bulls, 2016 Warriors, 2026 Oklahoma City Thunder, ? Like, people were openly wondering if the Thunder were going to set the NBA record for wins in a season. And since then, they are 6-6 in their last 12 games. Doesn't mean that Oklahoma City is fraudulent, that Oklahoma City is falling apart. No. Oklahoma City, for my money, still the best team in this league. Same thing with the Avalanche. Maybe what this does is make you understand how difficult it is to attain sports immortality as a team and how much good luck in terms of health comes into play. But I say that, and the Avs have lost 2 games, right? 2 games recently. And they're still on pace to surpass the Boston Bruins team back in, 2023. They're still on pace to have more points this year than that Boston team. So they're not even to the point that the Thunder are, and where people are going, okay, enough with that historical talk. Some of that historical talk can still be there with the Colorado Avalanche. But look, the most important thing here is, do these 2 losses mean that the Avs aren't the best team in the NHL? No. They're still 11 points up on Dallas, who, if you haven't noticed, has fallen off their not quite Avs-like form, but they were playing extremely well. Also, they've started to fall off a little bit because it's a long season. It's 82 games, the holidays, injuries, all this kind of stuff happens. We saw it with Winnipeg last year. Off to a blistering start. And they fell off of that pace, and yet, where did they end up? Still top of the division. Avs can do the same thing, and you could still, even with these 2 losses, consider the Avs the best team in the league, and maybe by a decent margin. What I will say is that what is far more problematic, and I brought it up yesterday, the power play. You want something to worry about? You want something to hand wring over? The power play. That's what you could do. If you want to sound the alarm on this team in any way, sound it about that. They can't figure this thing out. And now, and John Michael Lyles pointed this out on Altitude last night. I've mentioned in the past why teams like Carolina and Utah give the Avalanche problems, especially when the Avs are on the power play. What those 2 teams do is look to take away time and space by getting right up on the Avs skaters. Right? Why don't all teams do that? Fear. We're skating without, we're down a skater, and we're going to press these guys with their skill level. They're going to skate around us, and we're going to leave our goalie out to dry because there's going to be a guy wide open in a perfect shooting area because we're over pursuing or we're getting right up on these guys. Well, now that fear has been removed. Now all of these other teams that may back off and pack it in as a way to defend the Avalanche on the power play, now they're like, hey, they're not going to burn us. Now we're going to pressure them, which was the best way to defend the Avalanche to begin with. It's just that there were only a few teams brave enough to do it. Now everybody on the power, when they're on the penalty kill, they want to play that way. And it's just compounding the issue for the Avalanche. Because in addition to the problems they already had, now their time and space is being taken away. Now they can't even operate freely to try and find that right pass. And then you throw on top of it the gripping of the stick a little bit from all of these guys who are starting to speak out when they are interviewed by media members about their frustration level with the power play. So it's getting worse, not better, in many ways. That was the story in the Florida game 3 nights ago. Tampa last night, I don't know that the power play was the reason the Avs lost that game. But the point is, you're going to forget about these 2 games in Florida by the time the Olympics roll around. You won't even remember that the Avs lost back-to-back games. But what's going to stick with you, because it's been here all along and I don't see an end in sight? The Avs' inability to capitalize on the power play. 26th in the league, despite having the second most power play opportunities. They're getting practice. The most practice of anyone not named Carolina this year. And still yet can't figure it out. That's problematic. That's worth worrying about. Not dropping back-to-back games in Florida in early January. 719-247-1313, your level of worry with the Avalanche's current form. Speaking of what worries you, if you happen to be a fan of any of the teams in the AFC playoffs, what liability of your teams should you be worried about most heading into Wild Card Weekend? That is next on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Wild Card Weekend begins on Saturday on both Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Saturday night, the Green Bay Packers and Bears renew the NFL's oldest rivalry on one of the biggest stages in the wild card round on the NFC. You could hear that game at 6 on Extra Sports 1300. And then the bulk of the wild card games will be Sunday. It's a triple header with Buffalo, Jacksonville, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and the Chargers and Patriots. All three of those games can be heard on 740 KVOR. And of course, these two fine radio stations are your home for the NFL and Westwood One's coverage of Super Bowl 60. Speaking of, as I grab my notebook that I meant to grab and I didn't grab it, heading into Wild Card Weekend, each of these teams in the AFC, and I'm going to include the Denver Broncos here because obviously I would. Each team has an asset that is their best and may be the difference between them winning and losing. And they all have one liability that above all others could cost them at any point during the playoffs. For the Denver Broncos, their biggest asset is Sean Payton. His ability to prepare this team to make the next biggest stage they play on not seem as big, to constantly strive forward, the way he coaches up and motivates this team, but also the game day operation of it all. Right? His play calling to be able to, despite the offense starting to slow down a little bit over the last 3 weeks, still find the plays necessary for the offense to put points on the board. Sean Payton is the Broncos' biggest asset when it comes to these AFC playoffs and the Super Bowl if they're fortunate enough to get there. Their biggest liability, to me, is Bo Nix. Is Bo Nix for 4 quarters capable of playing at the level that is required to get to a Super Bowl, to win the most difficult games of the season, the biggest games that Bo Nix has ever played in the NFL? Because he's getting a free ride past the round that he got beat last year in, right? When he takes the field again, it will be the biggest game of his, albeit young, NFL career. And the game after that, if they win, is going to be the biggest game. Is he up for that? Or is he going to make that mistake in a crucial moment or not be able to lead the Broncos down the field when they need it in order to win one of these games in the next month? So best asset that the Broncos have is Sean Payton. Their biggest liability is Bo Nix. But that asset and that liability don't happen for another week. As far as the teams that are in the wild card round, let's start with the 2 seed and just go down. New England. To me, similarly to the Denver Broncos, I think their biggest asset is Mike Vrabel. This is a guy who you will recall in a past coaching life stared down his mentor and his former teammate and the organization that he helped make a dynasty. He stared them dead in the face in their dynasty and basically dealt it a death blow. The last time Belichick and Brady were in the postseason, they lost to a Mike Vrabel coach team. So you want to talk about how big these games are for New England, the place that they may have to go into Mile High in a couple of weeks if it does end up coming to fruition. It's a tough place to play. Having a coach that's done it before, that will have no fear and be able to instill that into his team, makes Mike Vrabel, to me, the best asset that the New England Patriots have. Their biggest liability is something that Mike Vrabel cannot help: inexperience. The New England Patriots have all of 6 players who have played in a playoff game for the Patriot franchise. Only 6 were around the last time the Patriots were in the playoffs. Yes, they brought in Stephon Diggs. He has playoff experience. Carlton Davis also has playoff experience. But all told, this is a very inexperienced Patriot team. And their quarterback is less experienced than even Bo Nix is. He is the least experienced quarterback in terms of the playoffs in the AFC. Everybody else has had a taste of it except for Drake May. So to me, if the Patriots fall short, I think we'll most likely look at a team and their inexperience and say that was a big reason why. For Jacksonville, I think their biggest asset is something that I have said that the Broncos need to try and do in the playoffs: create turnovers. Jaguars don't have that problem. They are terrific at turning other teams over. And there will come a time where Jacksonville is probably going to need a turnover to swing momentum, to maybe even win a game. They are the best defense in the AFC and arguably the NFL. Bears would rival them in terms of creating turnovers. So that's their biggest asset. Their biggest liability, the duality of Trevor Lawrence. All told, this has been a very good season for Trevor Lawrence. But there have been some low points. There's been some inconsistent play. And are you going to get... Well, I'll give you a perfect example. Last time we saw Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs, are we going to get first half of that game Trevor Lawrence or second half of that game Trevor Lawrence? You're not entirely sure. I think you can lean that you'll get the better version of Trevor Lawrence, but you know that when he doesn't have it, it can get bad. So to me, for Jacksonville, that is their biggest liability. For Pittsburgh, their best asset is a guy that has routinely elevated his game in the most important times: Aaron Rodgers. Now, we haven't seen playoff Rodgers in a while, but I think that guy still exists. And if he does, that's the best thing the Steelers have going for them, is a quarterback that has in the past performed at a higher level than any of these other guys in the AFC have. Their biggest liability is their run defense, which can be a big problem when you think about the Chargers want to run the ball, the Bills want to run the ball, Houston wants to run the ball, Jacksonville has Travis Etienne, New England wants to run the ball, Denver wants to run the ball. Pittsburgh has a leaky rush defense. And they are within a group of teams that all want to run the ball and are all pretty good at it. And that may ultimately be Pittsburgh's downfall. For Houston, their biggest asset, the pass rush. They don't got to blitz you. Will Anderson Danielle Hunter, they'll get the quarterback. They'll just go get him. You don't got to blitz or anything like that. Those two guys' ability to get to the quarterback is the best asset that the Houston Texans have. And their ability to wreck games. And their biggest liability, could it be overconfidence? There is no hotter team in the NFL right now than Houston. There are a lot of people jumping on that bandwagon. A lot of people loving on Houston. A lot of people saying that they're going to get out of the AFC. Is this team hearing it? Or more importantly, are they listening to it? Are they drinking their own Kool-Aid? Right? The stuff that Sean Payton has protected the Broncos against during their 11-game winning streak after they beat Philadelphia. These high points. To shut it out, keep striving, keep trying to get better. They're going to be a trendy pick as the week goes on to not only win this weekend, but keep winning. Does that lead to a team that feels like they've already made it? That is their biggest liability. For Buffalo, this one's easy. Best asset, Josh Allen. Best quarterback in the playoffs, regardless of conference. The guy that, as long as he doesn't go up against Kansas City, is a big-time playoff performer. And if you recall, Josh Allen isn't even the reason why Buffalo loses to Kansas City. Josh Allen is the reason why I think Buffalo might end up coming out of the AFC. Why Buffalo is the team that no one wants to play. It's because of Josh Allen. And their biggest liability, it could be everything else. If you really examine the run game, no. But Josh Allen is an extension of that run game. But the defense, Sean McDermott's coaching, the things that have kept the Buffalo Bills from getting to the Super Bowl already, yeah, those things still exist. And there is a lesser group over the last couple of years of receivers around Josh Allen than he has had in the past. So I look at it and I say, if you count Josh Allen as a part of the run game, which is a huge asset for the Bills, everything else might be their biggest liability, and why you're not buying in, and why they're the 6th seed in a year where Kansas City is down, Cincinnati's down, Baltimore's down, yet the Buffalo Bills didn't win their division and they're the 6th seed. And finally, the Chargers. I think that the Chargers' best asset, just a skosh over Jim Harbaugh, is their defense. With Derwin James and Khalil Mack in that group, their defense is outstanding. And it's why Jesse Minter is probably going to get a head coaching gig this cycle. That's why the Chargers, I know you may shudder to think about the Chargers going across the country, right, to New England, or going into a hostile environment in Denver potentially next round. One thing that travels, a defense. And the Chargers have an elite one. Their biggest liability is the inability of the Chargers offensive line to keep Justin Herbert upright and healthy. They've lost Rashawn Slater. They lost Joe Alt. They've lost other starters on the offensive line. And because of that, Justin Herbert has been pummeled throughout the course of the season. Nothing changes. Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt aren't walking through that door. And especially when you look at a path that could entail going up against the Broncos pass rush, going up against the Texans pass rush, going up against TJ Watt. Chargers' biggest liability is their inability to keep their quarterback upright and healthy. 719-247-1313. What's the biggest asset or liability for your favorite team in the AFC playoffs? We will continue on with this Wednesday edition of Drive Time Sports right after this on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Nuggets fans, NBA All-Star voting presented by Xfinity is live. You can vote daily on NBA.com or on the NBA app using your NBA ID. Vote today and every day to help send your favorite Nuggets players to All-Star 2026 in Los Angeles. And today is a triple the points day. Triple the votes day. One vote that you cast for Jamal Murray. Because let's be honest, if you're a Nuggets fan, that's the guy. I mean, Jokic, obviously, but you're trying to get Jamal Murray into the All-Star game more than anybody else. Your votes count triple today. So a good day to vote. NBA.com. Or you could just go to, I think on the @ExtraSports1300 on Twitter, we retweeted the Nuggets tweet about the triple thing. So you can go there as well and tack on to help Jamal Murray become an All-Star. I started the show by talking about the Colorado Avalanche. And if you want to worry about something, you should be more worried about the power play than any of these other things. The Avs losing back-to-back games. They don't have Landeskog right now or Mackenzie Blackwood. Like, I think they'll get healthier. They'll get those guys back. None of them have anything terribly serious. But the power play, and it certainly reared its ugly head against Florida 3 nights ago. That's something that is, I mean, it's everybody now. It's Bednar, it's McKinnon, it's the guys on altitude who are normally as Pollyannish as anyone could possibly be about the teams that they cover. Even they're like, the power play is not good, and it's got to get done. Ideas are welcome. This coming in from Dave, who texted in at 719-247-1313. Is there a penalty in hockey for too few men on the ice? What if Bednar just took a guy off the ice and played 4-on-4? We are officially, Dave, into there are no bad ideas. I am not aware of any rule. And I would say it would be better than intentionally taking a penalty so it becomes 4-on-4. But at this point, can't hurt. Maybe the Avs pull the goalie and make it a 6-on-4. Maybe that would be a good way. I've suggested this in the past, and I think, I mean, it's right up there with Dave's suggestion. I think they need, and I know this sounds weird, less skill. They need less skill on the power play. They need more of these blue-collar, grinded-out type players. They're not going to overthink it, right? They don't have the skill of a Makar or McKinnon or an Achushkin or any of these guys. They're just like, I got to do whatever I can to get a goal. And by the way, last night, one of the few bright spots was Parker Kelly's fourth line. I want some of those guys on the power play. I'm dead serious about this. Yeah, maybe it'll hurt some feelings, but you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. If you got to replace, and I'm not singling him out because no one's been good on the power play, but Marty Necas and replace him with, Parker Kelly or something, go for it. I think they need guys that won't overthink it, that will just grind it out, and will get to those dirty areas, which is so key, that net front to score goals, 5-on-5 or 5-on-4. They need more of their grinders to be a part of the power play proceedings. I think that's, or jump in a time machine and don't hire Dave Haxtell to run your power play because I didn't like his power play in Seattle. And those methodologies that he's brought to the Avs is not working. You know, they fired a coach because of all this. In the offseason, they fired Ray Bennett because of the power play. They brought in Dave Haxtell to fix the power play. We are sitting here on January 7th. The power play is getting worse because of the way that teams are now playing the Colorado Avalanche. They're all taking away time and space because they are not afraid that the Avs are going to beat them. And I'll look, at this point, it's like 50-50, the opponent and on the Avs. Because you got to think that the more that the Avs talk about it and the more that the Avs are asked about it, that it's more at the front of their minds. Okay, here we go. Power play. Ugh, can we figure it out this time? Overpass. You fumble a puck. You don't get the right contact on your shot. I mean, that's what I'm seeing out there as much as anything else is the Avs are starting to grip, but it's this vicious cycle. The only way you're going to break out of it is if you start scoring on the power play. The media that covers you on a daily basis is not going to go, okay, for the good of the team, I'm not going to ask about the power play on a night where they go 0 for 5 on the power play. They got kids to feed. They got a mortgage. That's the hot topic right now with the Avalanche is this power play. So they're going to keep getting asked about it. They're going to have to keep answering. And it's going to be more at the forefront of their minds. But they got to figure it out. And we're not talking about that the Avs got to be the best. They're 26th. Get to 16 or 15. I think that's the goal here. If they're there, I think it'll be good. You'd love for them to be the best, but I think you'll settle for middle of the road. They're a bad power play team right now. Guys, did you know that low testosterone can cause fatigue, lack of focus, and just feeling off? Many men don't even realize it until they're tested, that is the issue. At Synergenics and Low T Center, the TRT test is free for a limited time. If your levels are low, they offer testosterone replacement therapy with real medication, not compounded hormones, and expert care. And ladies, if you're listening, your hormone test is now just $99, normally $299. Take control of your health today. Walk in or book at getmyhealthfix.com. Synergenics and Low T Center, where real results happen. More Drive Time Sports coming up. And coming up next, a timeline on Joker's return for the Denver Nuggets. Welcome in hour 2 on this Wednesday. Pleasure to have you along. A reminder that you can watch this show on a daily basis. If you can't listen on Extra Sports 1300 or 740 KVOR, you can always go to the station's social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at XTRA Sports 1300 and at 740 KVOR, and you can watch the show. And if you don't mind, do me a favor. I will thank you and my kids will thank you if you liked, subscribed, followed, and most importantly, and this is what can benefit you a little bit, leave a comment. And I can get to them as we proceed throughout this radio program. Of course, there is a more traditional means of communication that is abundantly available to you. You could call or text into the show at 719-247-1313. Shams Charania dropped a little nugget, not to, no pun intended there, that Nikola Jokic has been working out constantly in order to get back into the lineup for the Denver Nuggets. Now, this does not mean that Nikola Jokic is going to come out of the tunnel tonight against the Boston Celtics. They're looking at the end of January, which would fit with the initial timeline of Jokic being reevaluated in 4 weeks with the what was being called a hyperextension of his knee, later characterized as a bone bruise. So it would fit the timeline. And Shams Charania said in his reporting, the Nuggets are not going to rush him back, which is the right move, but it's also going to be difficult. It's easy to say that today, right? You've already said it in your mind. He's going to be out for 4 weeks. We don't have him for the next 4 weeks. We're coming up on the beginning of week 2 of that. You have it in your mind already as an organization. He's not coming back before that. We'll do everything we can to make sure he's ready at that time, but we're not going to bring him back before that. That's easy to do. But we got a little respite the other night in Philadelphia from what the true reality is right now for the Denver Nuggets, that in a loaded Western Conference, they are extremely susceptible to fall from a top 3 or 4 seed and be kind of flirting with the play-in. That's how congested everything is in the West and how missing the best player on planet Earth can impact you. So what happened the other night in Philadelphia was fantastic. The 9 of Hearts, shouts to Ken, who contributed that. That's my favorite one, even more than mine. That's how good it was. Takes a lot. Takes a really good suggestion to move me off of my where I'm at. But that was fun, and maybe something like that will pop up. Certainly before the Cleveland game, Jamal Murray went berserker, right? And you're going to get those kind of games along the way. You'll get these fun stories as you know, Spencer Jones with his LinkedIn profile. Did you see this? Spencer Jones, who went to Stanford, kept his LinkedIn. He was on Cam Johnson's podcast, the Old Man in the Three, and said that the reason why he kept his LinkedIn is because he wants to keep the connections he made at Stanford. That is a very smart individual, the kind of smart individuals that attend places like Stanford. So when his playing career is over, or even during his playing career, who knows what opportunities might pop up. You've created a network at one of the most prestigious institutions in America. Yeah, why are you deleting that? Because you become an NBA player? That's smart. Good on Spencer Jones. So we'll get more posts from Spencer Jones on LinkedIn. Jamal Murray's going to have some crazy games. And by the way, today, if you vote for Jamal Murray, or no matter who you vote for, it's worth triple the vote for the All-Star game. Jamal Murray at the last return, I believe, was 15th. It will probably, despite maybe your best efforts, it will come down to the coaches and the players on whether Jamal Murray makes the All-Star team. Probably not going to be a starter. But I remember a year when the Kansas City Royals had the entire starters. Like, wasn't there an All-Star game where like every starter was a Royal? Don't tell me that Nuggets fans can't get together like Royals fans did and get Jamal Murray to be a starter. It can be done, but there are a lot of opposing forces here. But just if you want to do your part, today's a good day to do it. So there will be nights where maybe there's a little bit of dread that this may be another night where the Denver Nuggets fall a spot or two in the standings. So my point is, right now, end of January, everybody's cool with it. But let's say it's not where the injury's not where it needs to be. And now we're talking about Nikola Jokic at 75%, 80%. Can he go out there and play? Sure. Is it worth it? If the Nuggets are in the 6th seed or the 7th seed at the end of January, and nights like the other night in Philadelphia are few and far between, that's when I'm curious to see how the Nuggets play this. Because the right move, unfortunately, is still erring on the side of caution. Because I may not believe that the Denver Nuggets can get out of the play-in and go all the way to winning an NBA Finals. But I'll tell you what will stop their title chances dead right there, dead in its tracks, is if Nikola Jokic exacerbates his injury. Or what appeared to happen with Jamal Murray, not that we're going to spend too much time dabbling in that world, but perhaps his body overcompensating because of the injury and leaving himself open to injure himself in a different way. The Nuggets have to be very, very patient, excruciatingly patient. And it probably means that Nikola Jokic cannot win the MVP. And it will probably mean when he comes back, the Nuggets are going to have to put together quite the run to pull themselves back up the standings, but it's what they have to do. You cannot risk putting Nikola Jokic on the floor a night too soon. Because getting into the play-in doesn't look like they'll win a championship. Without Nikola Jokic, they have zero chance. Now, what helps a little bit, and we'll see here because it's a very small sample size. Nikola Jokic just got hurt a week ago. Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown are going to be playing, we expect, their second game back from their injuries. The Brooklyn game Christian Brown was really bad in that game. Aaron Gordon was pretty good coming off the bench. If they can get those guys reintegrated in the lineup and they play at the level that they're capable of, even without Nikola Jokic, you look at the schedule that the Nuggets have. It's not that daunting. But you see how much of a lesser team the Denver Nuggets are without Nikola Jokic. You've seen it. But there aren't a lot of title contenders on their schedule between now and the end of January. So I'm trying to paint a rosier picture. But it's tough to do when Nikola, the best player in the world, is hurt. Tonight's interesting because I'm labeling the Boston Celtics as a future title contender. As currently constructed, they're not a title contender. But I said this going into the season. Jason Tatum's coming back. He is. And we don't know what he's going to look like. But if he's close to who Jason Tatum is, Boston immediately becomes a title contender, obviously. So right now, the Celtics aren't in their current form a title contender, but they're a very good team. They're a very good team even without Jason Tatum. So tonight would not be a night to push it and say, well, let's run out those 9 guys again and see what they do. Celtics are in a different league than the Philadelphia 76ers are. These Celtics will not lose to that team. So Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, Jamal Murray all being back in the lineup is necessary if they are going to beat this Boston Celtics team. And that game comes up at the top of the hour. But as far as the Jokic side of this, one thing that stuck out to me when I heard Shams Charania reporting, one, this is as if we need another one. If you're new to the program, I have long been trying to dispel the myth that Nikola Jokic could care less about basketball, that it is his 9 to 5, and all he wants to do is spend time with his horses. He loves his horses, but you probably love your fantasy football team as much or more than your career. He can do both. He can love his horses and he could be emotional and celebrate over the summer when his horse wins and still be just as dedicated to his career. And Nikola Jokic is that. So the fact that in the middle of the season, still a lot of season left to be played, the fact that Nikola Jokic only, the prognosis being out for a month, the fact that he's working as hard as he can to make sure that's all just tells you, yeah, don't let him fool you. He cares. He cares deeply about this team, this season, and his basketball career. And then the second thing is, I don't think it is a coincidence that the first game of February is against the Oklahoma City Thunder. You don't think that Nikola Jokic wants to make sure that he is back for the Thunder game? Even if that's his first game back. He knows what that team means to this season and to this Denver Nuggets team. I don't think it's number one on the list of motivations for the guy, but it's not nothing. And that also further exacerbates the issue that I just brought up, which was, what's the Nuggets' level of patience? If the end of 4 weeks is the night of the OKC game and Nikola Jokic isn't quite where they'd like him to be, the restraint the organization will have to show to say, even though this is our first chance to take a shot at the champions, the team that ended our season, there's going to be another fight. They play all their OKC games February and beyond. It's going to be difficult to do, but they have to show restraint, even if that OKC game rolls around or when that OKC game rolls around. Nuggets and Celtics tonight, just after 5 o'clock. Altitude Television, the place to check that one out. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on this Wednesday. Coming up next, what do I want to get into? Oh, more of the what's left over from the. Oh, no, Corey Roldan's going to join me. I'm getting all mixed up here. Corey Roldan's going to be my guest. Excited for that. KKTV sports anchor, my guest right after this. couple of days in a row now, we've had breaking news during the show. Yesterday was the firing of John Harbaugh. Today, it's that the Avalanche will be traveling to Salt Lake City next year for the Winter Classic that will take place at Rice-Eccles Stadium, the home of the Utes. That was just announced about 20 minutes ago by the NHL. Of course, my buddy Sam Farnsworth is on the television out there in Salt Lake City. So a natural, obvious fit, right, to bring the Avs to Utah for that game. So that'll be in 2027. My question to my guest, who is Corey Roldan of KKTV 11, hockey stick in hand, is my car or yours, Corey, a year from now?
You know what? You can take mine. Mine's new. Dude, that stadium is going to be beautiful with the mountains in the background. We'll see if it's cold. Somebody's like, oh, at least it's going to be cold. It's been 60 degrees here in Colorado and Utah the last 2 months. It's been abnormally cold, but dude, awesome, man. I love the stadium series. Outdoor hockey. You're going to have the mountains in the background. What more can, I mean, you got to love it.
Well, I do love it that it's going to be at a venue like that. I was not a fan of the Avs playing at Lake Tahoe. That was a disaster.
Yeah.
What happened here, for reasons that had nothing to do with weather, not great. And I didn't think that the aesthetic for the Florida game the other day was great.
Beach.
So it's a good thing. It's a good idea. I like it. Let's just put it in the places that it's supposed to be, like Salt Lake City.
Yeah, like Lambeau Field,
Right.
like Toronto, like Montreal. Let's put it in places that, one, it's cold because hockey is a cold
chilly.
sport. Yeah, virtually cold.
Yeah.
And one, it's just, cool spots.
Yeah.
Like Wrigley Field.
Yeah, that would be a good spot. Coors Field. I think that one went just fine. I think that went just fine a few years ago when the Avs played there. So with that, let's move to the main topic of conversation this week, which is the Denver Broncos clinching the number 1 seed. I did a segment last hour in which I identified the biggest liability and asset that each AFC playoff team has. When it comes to the Denver Broncos, would you mind giving one of each, Corey Roldan?
What their best
their best asset, the best thing they have going for them going into the playoffs.
It's 100% the pass rush. They're 4 away from breaking the record. They had 68 sacks during the season, franchise record. They were actually mad in the locker room speaking with them that they didn't get the record, but that's their best asset. I mean, you win Super Bowls off the pass rush alone. 2017 Eagles won a Super Bowl because of their pass rush. Also, you remember the Giants team 2007, they beat the Patriots. Why? Because of their pass rush. So you can lean on your pass rush to really help you. It's and the thing I'm concerned about is the inconsistencies offensively. And if this Broncos team, you made a really good point yesterday, can they methodically move the ball down the field when defenses are playing cover 4, cover 2, not letting Bo Nix throw over the top of you?
Mm-hmm.
And can you do that consistently? That's my concern with this team.
For whatever reason, who would you like to be covering at Mile High next week going against the Denver Broncos?
The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Steelers by a mile, okay? And it's not because of, say, the Steelers aren't talented. They are. But the other 3 teams, the Bills have Josh Allen. He's going to be the best player on the field no matter what. The Chargers beat the Broncos before Sunday 3 straight times. Herbert has played well against that defense, and the Chargers defense has been great against Sean Payton's Broncos. The Texans have the best defense in the NFL, and C.J. Stroud can make plays when he has to. So it's the Steelers without question. I think you could get after Aaron Rodgers. You could force some turnovers. Defensively, they're okay. They're solid, but they're not incredible like the Chargers or the Texans. I just think it's a very winnable game. Now, I will say this. The Broncos come out and they win a game over the Bills or the Chargers. I like their odds of getting to the Super Bowl.
You and I were talking yesterday when I was on your show. You really fancy that Buffalo-Jacksonville matchup. You think that's a very consequential matchup going on this Sunday morning.
100%. I think those two teams, the Jags are on fire. We saw them, 3 weeks ago at Empower Field, just torch that Broncos defense. Trevor Lawrence is playing like an MVP. And what that defense does is get turnovers and create turnovers to help their offense out. They're dangerous. And when teams are hot like that, they can obviously make a run and go to the Super Bowl. And I already spoke about Josh Allen being the best player, and you made a good point. Me and you in agreement with this. This is their year to go to the Super Bowl and win it. So yeah, that game is must-watch TV on Sunday.
Where would people be able to watch that, by the way?
KKTV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right. What
just keep the channel on us. You can watch our sportscast, and then you can watch some good football. Don't worry about everything else. Don't worry about college football playoffs. No, I'm just kidding.
I do want to ask you about college football playoff, but before that, I think a good transition from Colorado sports to college football is what you were talking about on KKTV yesterday evening when it comes to CU. I don't think we've quite – I'll speak for myself. I don't know that I've quite nailed down the science behind following the transfer portal. So it hasn't quite become free agency where here's the best available. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but you did a brilliant job laying out what CU has been doing. You really like what Prime and company are doing. Why?
I believe in a portal you need you can't just fully build a roster on portal players. But that method is starting to change, right? Mm-hmm. You look at Indiana. Indiana, 2 years ago and last season, they didn't go get flashy guys. They got guys from lower levels, G5 programs, FCS, that were good football players, all conference players, and have a ton of experience. So you could come in, learn the system quickly, and then you already have game reps and you know what you're seeing. Colorado, the past 2 years, has done the opposite of that. They've gone after the flashy former 5-star kid that hasn't played from Texas, from Florida, from wherever, and that hasn't worked. They also have been just going after the flashy skill position players. Mm-hmm. This year, they changed that, and I absolutely love it. They're going to the portal and getting defensive linemen, linebackers, cornerbacks, beefing up that defense. Santana Hopper from Tulane, all-conference player, a monster in the backfield. I believe he had like 7-8 sacks this past year. They went and got a really good cornerback from James Madison. They also got a couple of really good linebackers, one from Bowling Green. But as of yesterday, that number has changed now because they've added more and more players. But 10 of their 16 targets were all guys that were all conference players. I don't care about your stars and all that kind of stuff. But if you're an all conference player, typically that means you're a pretty good football player. All right. And these are all guys that are going to be hungry and ready to step up. And Indiana is the perfect example.
I was just going to ask you, is this the Cignetti effect?
It 100% is. It 100% is. By the way, the best story in college football, Indiana, in a long time. Long time.
As far as the college football playoff goes, any surprise with the 4 teams we have left?
I mean, there's a ton of surprise with Ole Miss. You thought, man, they're done. Heading into Georgia, half their staff is going to LSU. What's going to happen with Trinidad Chambliss? What's going to happen with Lacey? And Chambliss came out there, man. That was one of the best college football games I've seen in a long time. Some of the throws and plays that kid made and maybe Ole Miss's biggest game without their head coach, and he goes out there and lights them up. Talk about a great story. I'm not supposed to like Ole Miss, but I find myself rooting for them just because of all the drama that Kiffin brought to that football team, and they're a darn good football team, and I think they can beat Miami and make it to the national title game. And same with Indiana. I'm rooting for Indiana a little bit too, just because they were the second worst college football program. And in 2 years, they have a Heisman Trophy winner, and they're the best team in the country. It's an awesome story. It's Cinderella story for Indiana football. And it's also refreshing to see 4 teams that haven't been there a lot, besides Oregon, maybe. It's refreshing.
Yeah, and then you also get kind of double that, because you also get the nostalgia. You get the brand of Miami without this being the heyday of Miami, when a lot of people didn't
You
like.
still get Michael Irvin on the sideline acting like a dog.
Yeah, he's
have you saw that?
He's out of his mind. I don't know what.
Belt?
Like I'm not going to theorize what's going on with him, but he's wild.
Let me say this. So after the games, he always has the belt, okay, right? And he's like, has a jersey, and he's using a belt. Well, Ole Miss's theme is the belt too, by the way.
Okay.
Like Kiffin, so it's belt first belts. Ole Miss of like So we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Is the Indiana-Oregon game the de facto national championship game? Would you take either of them over either Ole Miss or Miami?
I'll say this. I would take either one of them over, but I'm not going to say it's a national championship, because I believe Miami's defense, if they create turnovers like they did Ohio State and they play the way that they did, they can beat anybody. And Trinidad Chambliss, when he gets going like he did against Georgia, they can beat anybody. So I'm actually excited to watch all these games play out, but I wouldn't say it's just a national title.
Well, that's tomorrow night where that gets going, but the main event of the weekend is Wild Card Weekend, and probably the best matchup of Wild Card Weekend will be on KKTV 11 on Sunday morning between the Bills and the Jags. In the meantime, get informed, entertained, and ready for Wild Card Weekend with Corey on KKTV 11. Thanks for the time, bud.
I appreciate you, and have a happy New Year, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Are you having a happy New Year so far?
Oh, dude, I'm having a great New Year.
All right.
My Saints are, we got our future quarterback.
Is it Ty Simpson? I saw he declared. Is it in the oh no, you're Shuck.
It's chucking it up, baby.
All right.
Tyler Shuck. Yeah.
All right. Just
I was totally off of Tyler Shuck when they drafted him, and I am totally happy to be wrong.
That's it's funny, and obviously the Shador of it all is part of why we are so acutely aware of how that all went down, because Shador was the guy that's when it started. That's when Mel Kiper started, hyperventilating, was when Shuck went to the Saints and not Shador. And then I think Shador has shown enough. I don't think he's going to be the quarterback in Cleveland, but that's another topic. But the fact that Shuck,
he's balled out, dude,
as well as he did down the stretch of the season,
5-4 with the football team that was 1-7 when he started, 5-4, and he should have won 2 more games if the Saints didn't have mailmen out there. Just absolutely torching defenses. There's a saying in New Orleans right now: 6 is just an upside down 9. 6 is just an upside down 9.
That's better than 6-7. We'll leave it there. Corey Roldan, appreciate you, bud. Talk soon.
All right, appreciate you.
Yep, that is Corey Roldan. Catch him nightly on KKTV 11 News. Coming up next, get you ready for what I believe is an extremely interesting basketball game tonight for Air Force, and also more on the firing of Jim Harbaugh. Some details are coming out, and it's basically about the organization choosing Lamar Jackson over Harbaugh. That's next here on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. The host of next year's Winter Classic in the NHL is going to be Utah. And the opponent announced today is the Colorado Avalanche. So apparently we are getting a posse together, and we are going to head to Salt Lake City. And if Sam Farnsworth is watching, we're staying at his house. I'm in, Corey Roldan's in, SoCal Dave is in. Let's go. Road trip to Salt Lake. I'm a big fan of Salt Lake City. Big fan. I was just there a few weeks ago for Air Force basketball. Really like Salt Lake City. So you don't have to ask me twice to have a reason to go there. So next year, 2027, Winter Classic in Salt Lake City, Avs and Utah Hockey Club. Forever Utah Hockey Club to me. Also want to amend something I said. It's all these brothers, Markeith and Marcus Morris, all of these guys that have similar names and the same last name. John Harbaugh is the recently fired head coach of an NFL team, not Jim. Sorry, Dave, didn't mean to frighten you. Although from context, why would the Chargers firing Jim Harbaugh be about Lamar? Unless they're thinking about Justin Herbert for Lamar Jackson. Who says no? Talk amongst yourselves. In the meantime, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network had this to say on the why John Harbaugh was let go in Baltimore.
The focus here was to find someone to reach Lamar, to invigorate Lamar, to find him, right? I mean, that's sort of what we're talking about here. I'm not saying that it was like they chose the coach over the quarterback, or they chose the quarterback over the coach. It's not like that. It's just which coach can come in and get the absolute most out of the two-time MVP that just had a weird year, and a year where a lot of people in the building were wondering, like, is Lamar okay? What's wrong with him? How can we get to him? The goal for the new leader of the organization is find someone who can get the absolute most of their superstar talented quarterback.
That all sounds weird. Okay, and for someone that thinks it's the right call for the Ravens to fire John Harbaugh, I'm not talking about Lamar Jackson. When I said yesterday I was in favor of the Ravens letting John Harbaugh go, I was talking about the rest of the roster. I was throwing out, what about, Vance Joseph being the next head coach of the Ravens? Not probably the ideal candidate, but with that side of the football in mind, someone that has a lot of defensive acumen to try and get more out of that horrific Ravens defense. I want to talk about getting the most out of Lamar and even getting the most out of a two-time MVP. What does that almost sounds oxymoronic? Get the most out of a guy who has been crowned the best player in the league 2 years? And in many people's minds should have beaten Josh Allen last year? Get the most out of Lamar Jackson. I think it started in a direction that I figured it was going to go. And then Ian Rappaport, and look, he's an insider. Somebody's telling him this. But that clip proceeded to make no sense. How is this not choosing Lamar over John Harbaugh? And I'm fine with that choice. But let's call it what it is. You chose Lamar Jackson over John Harbaugh. And the idea that they need someone to get through to Lamar Jackson to bring out. Now, I should say, get through to him is different than getting the most out of him. Right? Getting the most out of him, the guys won 2 MVPs, could have very easily won a third last year. Don't tell me about maximizing, like the days of Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball and all that stuff. That's long gone. Lamar Jackson's who he needs to be. What this is about is the relationship that John Harbaugh has with Lamar Jackson, or a lack of one. This isn't about maximizing Lamar Jackson as a player. This is about making him happy as an employee. And this is why, and I heard Cam Johnson of the Nuggets on his podcast talking about this very thing in terms of the NBA. There are X's and O's geniuses everywhere. Right? You can find a guy who can draw up great inbounds plays in the NBA or call a good game. Like, there are levels to it. Sean Payton, Andy Reid, these guys are in a different tier. But you can find guys who are very good at that stuff pretty easily. What you can't find is someone who can assume the role of CEO and all that it entails. It's CEO, but it's a more hands-on CEO. You're not above the employees. You're down there working with them every single day. You're more of a manager. But the relationship aspect to coaching is becoming more and more important at the professional level and now at the college level with the transfer portal. These guys can leave. These guys can demand things. And you may not like that direction, but you have to acknowledge that's the direction that pro sports has gone in a long time ago, and now college is going that way. You have to have a coach that has the respect, has the ear of his or her players, and most notably their best player. And John Harbaugh does not. This is not about Lamar Jackson, the football player. This is about Lamar Jackson and the relationship that he had, or lack thereof, with John Harbaugh. But this is absolutely choosing Lamar over John Harbaugh. The only reason that I could see it not being that is if the Ravens are seriously considering also moving Lamar Jackson. That's the only way this could not be Lamar over John Harbaugh, is if Lamar's gone too. And I legitimately do think that the Baltimore Ravens are contemplating that. And so why does an insider like Ian Rappaport say that? To build in room, because clearly the information he's getting is probably from the Ravens. It's giving them wiggle room to say we're not choosing one over the other, although he did go on to say getting the most out of Lamar Jackson's year. But it's leaving them the smallest bit of wiggle room if they decide, you know what, let's just cut ties with him too. We'll quietly, Nico Harrison style, probably not the name Ravens fans want to hear, like just go approach teams and say, what would you give us from Lamar? I think they're going to shop him. But with the intention of we're probably bringing him back. But we'll just see. We'll see what's out there. And if we get blown away by an offer, we'll deal with that when the time comes. But this was the Ravens choosing Lamar over John Harbaugh. There's no way to spin that. And again, right decision. John Harbaugh's, as accomplished as he is, and look, he's now immediately the top candidate in this coaching cycle, and he deserves to be. But there are more John Harbaughs out there than there are Lamar Jacksons out there. So if the relationship between those two is fractured and you have to choose a side, which it seems like the Ravens had to, you choose the side, you choose the guy that is in more scarce supply, and that's a quarterback with the talent of Lamar Jackson. Coming up tonight, Air Force women's basketball against Boise State. This is a big one tonight because what Air Force showed me, everyone at Clune Arena on Saturday, and most importantly themselves, is that they can hang with anybody that this conference has to offer. And that was the message that Stacey McIntyre imparted after that game.
I love how hard we play, and just that we come out and compete. And that is the most important thing, and realize how close to the top of the conference that they are, closer to the top, and and be thinking that way.
So they showed that last week with San Diego State and UNLV, two of the best teams in the Mountain West, and being in those games the whole way, having a chance to win those games, falling short, but having a chance to win those games. All of that is for naught if Air Force can't pull through tonight. Because Boise State, good team. Don't get me wrong. Boise State's a good team. They're not San Diego State and they're not UNLV. What Air Force needs to do to show that that message has landed, that they understand now that they are capable of achieving more than an Air Force team has achieved in many years. This is a game you come out tonight at home and you win. Doesn't have to be a blowout. Win the game tonight and show that you realize how good you are and show how good you are. That game is coming up at 6:30 right here on Extra Sports 1300. So that means I got to go. Appreciate your patronage, but the first hour of the show will re-air, and you can hear the Avalanche, no good, very bad night in Tampa. Talk to you tomorrow.